Once in a quiet village in the Ashanti region of Ghana called Bedium, there lived two sisters, Nana Esi and Kukua. They were known as the inseparable daughters of Mr. Kobna, the wealthiest cocoa farmer in the land. Their bond was unbreakable, their laughter a melody that brought joy to the entire village. But tragedy struck one fateful season when illness swept through the land and claimed the life of their father. Grief engulfed the sisters, and from burial to the Thanksgiving they held the Sunday after, they were inconsolable. 2 weeks after, they sat in the family compound with the elders of the village, clutching their father's will and holding each other. The village elder, Nana Osei, unrolled the parchment and began to read Mr. Kwabna's words. To my beautiful daughters, Nana Esi and Kukua, I leave my land, my wealth, and my legacy. As much as I love you both equally, one of you shall inherit it all. To determine who is most deserving, I have set 3 tasks. They are namely the harvest, building the granary, and winning the people. The winner will inherit it all. The air grew heavy with tension. The sisters who were in embrace before the will reading now looked at each other with spite. Nana Esi's jaw tightened. Kukua's eyes filled with disbelief. This cannot be, Kukua whispered, her voice almost trembling. Nana Esi crossed her arms. Father always believed in merit. He wanted the strongest to carry his legacy. I will honor his wish. And what makes you think you're the strongest? Kukua snapped, her voice rising. Because I am the oldest, Kukua, Nanisi replied coldly. Kukua stood up, her chest screeching against the floor. We'll see about that. The first task was to harvest and sell the most cocoa beans in one season. Nana Esi was meticulous and calculated, hired the village's best laborers. Kukua, on the other hand, was resourceful and daring, gathered the younger villagers, promising them a share of the profits. For weeks, the fields buzzed with activity, but soon, sabotage began to brew. One night, Nanesi discovered that several of her sacks had been soaked in water, spoiling her beans. She stormed into Kukua's compound. Her face was livid. You did this, she accused, slamming her fist on the wooden table. Kukua scoffed, not bothering to look up from her basket of cocoa pods. If your beans are ruined, maybe you should hire better guards next time. You are playing dirty, Kukua. And you, my sister, are playing victim, Nanesi. An argument grew so loud that neighbors gathered outside, shaking their heads in disapproval. The harvest season ended, with both sisters falling short of their father's expected yield. Their rivalry had cost them both dearly. The second task was to construct the largest and strongest granary in the village. Nana Esi, with her strategic mind, drew up detailed plans. Kukua, always bold, focused on gathering the strongest materials. But once again, chaos was imminent. One evening, Kukua's workers arrived at her site to find their timber stolen. Nanesi! Kukua yelled as she stormed into her sister's yard. Give me back my timber! Nanesi looked up from her plans, feigning innocence. I have no idea what you're talking about, Kukua. Kukua grabbed a hammer from the table and slammed it down. You won't win by cheating! Nanesi stood up, meeting her sister's glare. And you won't win by being reckless. Their shouting match ended with the villagers stepping in to separate them before it turned into a brawl. But the damage was done. Neither granary was completed before the rainy season began, and their half-built structures crumbled under the storm. The final task was to gain the respect of the villagers through acts of service. By now, Nanesi and Kukua's feud was the talk of the entire region, not just the village alone. and yet they pressed on. Nana Esi donated food to the elders, ensuring her name was whispered with gratitude. Kukua organized games for the kids, ensuring that they cheered and were happy. But their efforts were soon overshadowed by their bitterness. One market day, Nana Esi overheard a group of elders praising Kukua's generosity. Furious, she confronted her sister in the crowded square. "Stealing my ideas now, Kukua." Kukua shot back. "Unlike you, I actually care about the people, you know." Their argument spiraled into a shouting match that ended with overturned baskets and spilled produce. The villagers at this point were fed up, gathered in a council to address the sisters. "Kwabena's daughters are tearing this village apart, too," one elder claimed. "That is true. Your father's legacy was unity, not this chaos you people bring onto us," another said. "Do you not see what you have both become?" Nana Osei declared. The sisters sat in silence that night, their father's will on the table between them. For the first time, they truly looked at each other, not as rivals, but as siblings. "Father would be very ashamed of us," Nana Esi admitted. Her voice came out barely a whisper. Kukua nodded, tears streaming down her face. "We've lost everything, except for each other, I guess." Nana Esi reached across the table, taking her sister's hands. "Maybe we've been fighting the wrong battle. I mean, Father didn't necessarily say we had to do everything alone. What if the task were not meant to be done alone?" Kukua squeezed her sister's hands. "Then let's work together and finish this." The sisters united, pulling their resources and talents together. They reharvested the cocoa fields, producing a yield that surpassed their father's best season. They rebuilt the granary, this time large enough to store not only their harvest, but also those of the villagers. For their final task, they organized a festival, inviting the entire village to celebrate their father's legacy. As the villagers danced under the moonlight, Nana Osei approached the sisters. "Your father would be so proud of you," he said, his eyes twinkling. "You have both proven that his true legacy was never in the land nor the wealth, but in the bond you both share. You have passed the test." They looked at each other surprised. "What test?" "Your father wanted to see if you would both work together to be able to pull off what he had expected of you." From that day, Nana Esi and Kukua ruled their father's estate together. Their bond was stronger than ever. Their story became a legend, a great reminder that even in chaos, unity can prevail.